What is up, watch friends? Welcome to another episode of Talking Timepieces with Tony. I'm Tony. That's Paco in there inside the cat fort. Uku's right here. And Yakko, Wacko, and Dot right there. Anyway, today I'm here to talk about this. And what is this? Well, let's roll the intro and we'll get started.
Talking timepieces with Tony. Talking timepieces with Tony.
All right, so this watch here is a triple calendar Moonphase made by yours truly. A lot of you don't know that, and some of you do, because I did a video on this called The Rise and Fall of a Watchmaker about a year ago. If I remember, I'll put that link in the description. But this is a watch, was one of the first watches I'd ever made over 20 years ago, 22 years ago, 23 years ago maybe. And in a sense, in a weird way, it's like, okay, I get all flustered here for a minute because I'm really excited I got this watch working and running and everything. Let me start first and I'll get more in depth with this one, okay? When I was making watches, I'm not a true authentic watchmaker. I never went to school for it, but I'm self-taught for the most part. Well, totally self-taught. And I started making watches, and I had a watch brand called Anthony Burton Watch Company. Tony Anthony is my name, birth name. Burton was my middle name. And so that's what I named the company. And how I used to do this, because I know now anyone can stamp anything on a watch and go to Alibaba. Again, watch the other video. I'm way more in depth with that. But in my case, that long ago, that's not how it worked, okay? So I had to find dial companies. I had to find case companies. And cases, you have to have molding, so you have to pay for the molds. And then you have to have the crystals made. Whatever movements. Most of my watches were ETA automatic movements. In this case, this is quartz, and it's a Ronda quartz. And what I would do is I got these companies. I was able to get supplies that I needed. I designed all the dials. I designed the watch, and then what happens? They send me all that stuff. And let's start with a case. So I get the case. This is obviously not this watch. This is a tonneau shape, and of course it didn't have the crystal on it when they sent it to me. I had to get the crystals separately, so this is kind of partially assembled. I have pushers in it for the calendar feature in this particular watch. So I glue the crystal on, I put the pushers in. Obviously I have a case back, and then the insert, which you put inside the case where the movement sits. This is the particular dial for that watch. I mean, it just doesn't have to be this specific dial, and this was a hand-painted dial. And I'll get the movements. And this is a Ronda triple calendar Moonphase movement. And of course, whatever crown you want, sort of an onion, well, it's an onion style crown. And then the hands are here. So I've got the hands, hour hand, minute hand, second hand, and calendar hands are very tiny. It's still a very difficult process to get the whole watch together. Once it's all together, then you have this. Of course, a different dial variation, but you get the idea. Okay, so, and the same applies with this watch that I'm wearing here. So initially when I started and I did this, my idea was to do something classic, like a Patek Philippe, you know. I really loved the Patek Philippe calendars, and I love Moonphase. Moonphase is my favorite complication. And so I was going through, like, what can I, something aesthetically that looks like a Patek, but obviously is not a Patek, obviously. So I came up with this design, and I totally forgot about this watch. Now this watch is, I had put this together maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, although I've had the parts for about 22 years. So everything's been sitting for a long time. So in my case, I had, one of my neighbors had one of these watches with the silver dial, not the salmon dial. And I made a watch for her. And the salmon dial, this one is actually a piece unique. That there was never a stainless steel case with a salmon dial. It was always a rose gold case. I think it was only about 5 of those. I think with the silver dial, there was about 50 of them. And they're all gone. They all sold a long time ago. So, you know, Zenith came out with the triple calendar, and I was like, oh man, that's beautiful. And the weird thing is I'd forgotten about this particular one. And the other day I was going through my closet and I found it. I found the parts and whatever. So I was like, oh my gosh, man, I can make a watch out of this, you know. So I was nervous, you know. I got it, put it together. And when you've got quartz movements that have been sitting for over 20 years, it's hard pressed to make that they would still be working from just sitting, because if the oils it would dry up and whatever. And the Ronda movements, they are Swiss. They are a very high caliber Swiss movement for a quartz. But it turns out that I've got about 3 of these movements left, and they weren't working. Oh, and I had to wait for 4 or 5 days to get the batteries. Yeah, I just ordered some batteries from Amazon, and then they came in, and then and none of the movements were working. I was just like, oh man, this sucks. You know, already put one together, had to take it apart again, put it back together, put battery in, and lo and behold, this one started to tick, but it was kind of, and then it, you know, it was almost like it did have a battery that was dying in it. I was like, oh, it's not working. Let's just, you know, let it run for a minute, let it run. And it started running, and it was running a bit slow, just a little bit slow for a little while. And now I've had it going for about 3 days, and it's now keeping perfect time. So what this is it's a 36 millimeter case, stainless steel 316L. And of course it has the day, the date, the month, and a Moonphase. Now, essentially, I wanted to put like Breguet style hands on it, which I could have done, but I wanted it to look I didn't want it to look almost exactly like, say, a Patek or, you know, other watches that have similar aesthetics. So I had the red second hand and the black sword style. I want to say Dauphine style, but they're not. They're more sword style, I guess. Hands, and it's been working, and I've been wearing it, and it really is. It's nice. The funny thing is, I never wore my watches too much that were my watches, which is strange. But I mean, I would wear them. But you know, once the bigger watches came in, 36 just felt like it was too small for me. Now, this strap was on my Cartier Ronde. This is an alligator strap, and it fits, obviously, and it looks really good on this watch. I do love the way this watch looks and the way that it feels. And again, although it's quartz, it's always good to have a quartz watch in your collection. But I'm just super stoked that it was working, that I got it working, and it kind of scratches that itch for the Zenith triple calendar that I really want, as well as any Patek that I have in a calendar, even though obviously this is not a Zenith or a Patek. I think this watch, when I first made them, retailed at about $700. Again, that was in like 2002. So today, I don't know if I were to even make them, which I won't make them again, but if I did, probably be in the $1,200 to $1,500 range maybe. Domed sapphire crystal, and then obviously with the pushers, you know, it's 18 millimeter lug width, you know, and it just fits great on the wrist. and I just wanted to do a video on it. And again, you know, I appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes to my channel. It means a lot to me. It helps me stay motivated to keep doing this when sometimes I just kind of almost don't want to anymore. It's not that I don't want to, it's just sometimes I lose the motivation, because it's like, especially when you get the haters and whatever, but at the same time it doesn't matter. So anyway, this is a Anthony Burton triple calendar. It is a neo vintage 22-year-old watch, and it's running great and it looks great. I couldn't believe it when I found this that was in my closet. It was in a drawer in one of my closets in a bag, and I was like, I'm so stoked that it's working. Anyway, on that note, I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.